Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on the second episode of the Handle That podcast. And today we're going to talk about, it's mainly going to be about mental health and why you should take more care of your mental health and why you should, have certain understandings or seek certain, I guess I could say knowledge that would definitely help those who may suffer from any form of mental illness, because I feel like this conversation it's a really popular topic. What I'm about to say may not sound like it makes a lot of sense, but just bear with me. It's a really popular topic, mental health, but I don't think it's being discussed properly, right? In my opinion, because when somebody is going through something, when somebody is going through a really hard mental situation, to where if it's not corrected, if it's not checked, it could lead to anxiety. It could lead to bouts of anxiety. It could lead to bouts of depression. It could lead to suicidal thoughts, not really wanting to connect with people. And in my humble opinion, I don't feel as though it's being discussed properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just that. And we're going to start off by saying a lot of people neglect childhood trauma, right? I, like everybody else, or the majority of everybody, I grew up in a situation to where trauma was a regular thing, right? Because another thing that's not talked about a lot at all is the traumatic experiences that African people have in this country, or African American people, or black people. I don't necessarily like saying black, but that is a completely different conversation for another time. But the traumatic things that we go through in this country every day, and it doesn't have to be direct. It's most time very indirect, but trauma, whether it's direct or indirect, will affect you the same way. And so a lot of people grow up not really understanding why certain traumatic things happen to them, or why they had to experience certain traumatic things. And those instances literally burrow themselves deep into you, and they just lay dormant. They just go to the back of your mind, they lay dormant, and you don't necessarily think about it until you become an adult. And then even then you don't even think about it, because it manifests itself. It's a self-operating thing through no fault of your own. It manifests itself through you. And so you wonder why a lot of people that you may love are struggling alcoholics. You may wonder why a lot of people you love have certain addictions, have certain vices, are very detrimental to their life, their health, their wealth, and their overall well-being. And a lot of that has to do with, childhood trauma. I have suffered a tremendous amount of childhood trauma. Me personally, again, another story for another time. But what I realized as I became, when I became an adult, when I went through my bouts of, wanting to kill myself, suicidal thoughts, microphone, not microphone, the headphone's not on properly. But, when I went through my bouts of just wanting to end it all, just not wanting to exist anymore, just not wanting to do anything like that, I had to understand that it wasn't my fault what happened to me, but it was my responsibility to see, or to make sure that it doesn't, make me into the person that I could potentially become, which is going to be a negative person. A person with a very negative outlook on life, a pessimist. These things all come from a deep-rooted fear of facing what you know you need to face, and that is your own trauma, which more often than not results from a very aggressive form of an upbringing through your childhood. So when you see somebody or when you know somebody who has a hard time with commitment, they have commitment issues. Like I said earlier, they have their addictions. They may be alcohol, drugs. They may be addicted to pain. They may be addicted to being around people who treat them like dirt. They may be addicted to a lot of things that are very negative. That person is really struggling on the inside, right? A lot of bullies, a lot of school bullies, you know, they get that way because of things that are happening at their house, you know, because of the way they're being treated. They're children themselves, so they don't know how to properly deal with what's going on in the house, and so they take it out on the people around them. But see, I say that to say this: a lot of people who are, you know, well, a lot of adults now do the same thing. They don't know how to deal with what's going on inside, so they tend to take it out on other people. A lot of us are literally just children in adult forms. Like, we're literally kids trapped in adult bodies, I feel. And you know, the reason I say that is because you're still dealing with the stuff that troubled you when you were young, right? So if you're still dealing with something from 20 years ago, how can you expect to become a better person? How can you expect to truly be the person that you know you can be if you're still dealing with things that troubled you from years in the past? And so I know a lot of people, I'm pretty sure you know a lot of people, and I'm just here to offer some tips that I think would definitely help anybody out who may be struggling with some form of, you know, mental illness. One thing you have to do, and I've said it, you know, previously, is you have to get to the point to where you understand that 9 times out of 10, it's not your fault what happened to you, but it is your responsibility to make sure it doesn't shape and mold you negatively. And how you can do that is, there are a multitude of ways to do it, but how you can do that is, you know, through conversation. Find somebody who you know you can trust. And if you can't trust anybody, or if you feel as though you can't trust anybody, try to hire a professional. You know, I went to counseling for 2 months when I was at my lowest point, which was only last year in 2019. When I was at my lowest point, I would always tell myself, oh my God, those those counselors, they don't know anything. They can't help me. I was being foolish. I was blinded by my own, you know, anxious thoughts that wouldn't allow me to see what I had in front of me, these options that I have in front of me. And so one of the best things I've ever done was seeking counseling. You know, $50 a session for an hour. Most times it went over because they understood that I was going through a lot. And that is definitely one of the things you can do to see your way through this dark path that a lot of us go through, but the majority of us don't admit, you know. Excuse me. And that's just one thing. I remember calling the suicide hotline a few times because I was, you know, smoking a lot of marijuana. I was smoking a lot of weed. I was doing more drinking than I ever do. I don't drink. I mean, even though I got this bottle of alcohol on the table, I rarely drink. I might have a drink once every 2, maybe 3, 4 months. I just can't give you an exact answer because I rarely do it. But at that time, I was drinking a lot. I was overeating a lot. I was smoking a lot of marijuana. And I found myself calling the suicide hotline and talking to these people. And there was a genuine sense of care and understanding from the other side that truly helped me out, right? And I reserve that for the most serious of serious cases. If you really feel as though you may end your life at some point in the near future, I would definitely call the suicide prevention hotline. I really wish I had the number on hand, but that won't be anything hard for me to look up. Let's see here, so that way everybody can be on the same page. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, where is the number? It's like when you check these phones, man, they give you what you want, or they don't give you what you want. Yeah, that number is 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. And I probably called that number about 7 times. Every time it was a different person, and they all understood. And it's just that sense of conversation was something that I really, truly needed, because I really couldn't understand at that time why I was feeling the way I was feeling. Turns out there were a lot of things within me that I hadn't exercised. There were a lot of demons within me that I did not exercise, mainly from my childhood, right? There's lots of regret, lots of, resentment towards people, whether it be family or friend. There were, lots of times where I had, I struggled with self-worth. I struggled with feeling as though I mattered. I always wanted to fit in instead of standing out, which I really push for people to do. Don't try to fit in if you know, in fact, that you're greater than the thing you're trying to fit into. Because if you're trying to fit into something that you don't belong in, you're never going to be accepted. So why not stand out in the first place? I really wish I knew that as a kid, but I didn't get that type energy from the outside, right? Because, kids are sponges. They soak up everything and they hold on to everything, and then they mimic what they see. They mimic what they hear, right? And so those two, understanding the childhood trauma, and, if you feel as though you need to, or if you come to a certain understanding that you need to do something about this, definitely seek conversation. Another tip that I would give is to meditate. A good friend of mine, she actually helped me understand what meditation was all about. Because at first I didn't even know what meditation. I mean, I knew it was you sit down and you put your fingers together and you I understood that from like TV and movies and stuff. But true meditation, true understanding of meditation, it really helped me out, because when you meditate, and you don't necessarily have to sit, that water again. You don't necessarily have to sit in a dark room and close your eyes. You can meditate while, you're walking. You can meditate while, all the lights are on. You can meditate when there's a lot of outside noise. It's really just, when you meditate, it's really just a connection between you and yourself, you and your inner being, you and all of the things that you truly are, all the positives and negatives. That is what meditation really is. And meditation is very, very helpful for people who may be going through any forms of mental anguish. Because when you sit down and, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you do close your eyes. When you sit down, you close your eyes, you shut out the world, and you just think. You just think about all the things that make you happy. You think about all the things that make you sad. You think about all the things that invoke every single emotion that we all have. And that is the best way to, or one of the best ways to truly come into contact with that which troubles you, Meditation is what I would preach to everybody. All these things are what I would preach to everybody. But sometimes you can't, or sometimes you either can't, or you may not necessarily feel like conversating with people. And those are both fine. You can always conversate with yourself through meditation, right? You can always do that. Another thing is, not lying to yourself. Every relationship in my life, whether it be a family relationship, the relationship I have with my girlfriend, any platonic relationship that I may have, one thing that is very, very, I guess I could say, I don't want to say prevalent, but one thing that is very, very understood, one thing that is highly understood, is that lying is something that I don't like. I do not like liars. I myself am not a liar, and I have this weird ability to where I really can detect who's the liar and who's not. And so when you stop lying to yourself, because you can lie to anybody. You can lie to me, You can lie to your dad. You can lie to your mom. You can lie to your brother, your sister, your cousin, your friend, your boss, your employees. You can lie to everybody except yourself. And the reason why you can't lie to yourself, because you know everything that you do. When you wake up in the morning, one of the first things you do is you look in the mirror right before you brush your teeth. When you look in the mirror, when you look, that person who's staring back at you is the only person from the time you are alive to the time your book ends. That is the only person you will never be able to lie to, because that person knows all of your truths. That person knows all of your lies. That person knows all of the things that make you happy, all the things that make you sad, all the things you've ever been through, all the things you're thinking about. You are your own worst enemy, and you cannot lie to yourself. So this is one of the hardest things to do whenever you're going through something mentally, because you may have been lying to yourself for a long time, even though those lies don't 100% register with you. They only register enough for you to do the things that you're lying to yourself about. I'm going to say that again. They only register with you enough for you to do the things that you're lying to yourself about. Case in point, when I was going through the bulk of my mental anguish, I mentioned that I would smoke a lot of marijuana. I would smoke a lot of weed. And this one weekend always pops up. This one weekend in particular, between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I smoked 10 grams of weed. Because I was going through so much shit, I smoked 10 grams of weed in 2.5 days. I got off work, I called, I got it. I came home by myself. I didn't talk to anybody. I turned off, I basically cut myself off from the world. And throughout this whole time, I'm getting ready to smoke this stuff. I'm telling myself, this is the last time. I'm just going to smoke this little bit, and then I'm going to go on about my business. I'm going to just chill out. I'm going to do that. Okay. One blunt down. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's good. I'm done. I don't feel anything. Okay, let me roll another one. All right, this is the last one. I promise I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to do this, that, and the third. Okay, that blunt's going. I don't feel anything. Okay, this third one, this fourth one, this fifth one, this sixth one. This is the last one. I'm just lying to myself over and over and over again, because lying feels better than being straight up with myself and telling myself the truth. Me lying to myself about my own problems makes me feel better in the moment. That instant gratification makes me feel better than it would make me feel to sit down and say, hey, man, Jabal, you got to stop bullshitting. You got to stop smoking this stuff. This shit is no good for you. You got to stop drinking so much. You got to stop trying to fill voids in your life with food. You got to stop trying to do things that are, detrimental to who you really are, because all you're doing is setting yourself back. You're losing money, you're losing sleep, you're losing time when you could be focusing on what you could be doing or what you love to doing, which is, at the time was YouTube. I still love doing YouTube, but now I love podcasting and YouTube. And when I realized that this whole time I was just lying to myself, when I realized that, it really gave me a sense of clarity that I rarely had in my life. A sense of, I'm being straight up with myself. This is the truth. This is what I need to do. I understand that what I'm doing is very detrimental to my future, to my present, and to anything that I may want to do later on. And when I understood that, I understood, okay, now it's time to stop. And I did. I really did. I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking. I slowed down. I would love to say that I immediately stopped stressing, but that didn't happen until way later. But it was a gradual process. Every day got a little bit better. And so over time, I got better. I still go through, I have my bouts of anxiety. I have my bouts of depression. That's probably, I have accepted the fact that may never go away. And that's fine. That's fine. I can continually work on it though, to to minimize any bouts that I may have, right? So lying to yourself is never going to get you anywhere. It never got me anywhere. It never got anybody anywhere. Lying to yourself, it got you somewhere, but it got you to a place that you didn't want to be. Got you to a negative space that you didn't want to be in, right? And you just have to understand that it's never going to work out that way if that's how you operate. And this is a conversation that is never ending, and I'm so glad that it's getting the attention that it's getting today, or in these days. But I really do believe that conversations need to be had, and conversations need to be had and had. Like, what am I trying to say? Conversations need to be more rampant about this thing. That's what I want to say. But I really hope that this little 20 minutes in? Yeah, this little 20-minute clip or viewing or listening cast, or however you want to call it. I really hope that this is going to help out everybody. I really hope you all understand that if you are going through something, if you're going through something mentally, trust and believe you are not by yourself. Help is literally a call away. You don't have to have suicidal thoughts. And if you have them, you don't have to act on them. You really just need to seek some type of counseling, some type of conversation, seek some type of understanding outside of yourself, and see how your world changes. Because you may think that the conversations aren't good enough, but trust me, that's a start. That's a start. If you needed to lose 200 pounds, understanding is I'm not going to lose 200 pounds in a month, in a year, in a couple months. I'm not going to lose that overnight. But what I am going to do is I'm going to train hard. I'm going to eat right. And I'm going to lose 4 pounds this week. I'm going to lose 5 pounds next week. Then I'm going to lose 4 pounds the week after, and then 3 pounds the week after, and then 4 pounds the week after, and over until a few months down the line, now you're 50 pounds lighter, right? The same thing with mental health. It's the same thing with getting better with your mental health. The conversation is literally the catalyst to everything positive that's going to come after it. It's going to lead to you coming into contact with people who go through the same things you go through, or people who have went through the same things you've went through, or you are currently going through, and they know the answers. All of that starts from conversation. All of that starts from understanding and conversation. So understanding, conversation, stop lying to yourself, and seek some type of help, in any form. Positive help, positive reinforcement, all of that. And to end it off, understand that you're great. Understand that you are a great person. We are all great in our own ways. Some of us may be, we may not have been viewed that way, but you are great. You are worth everything that you may want to do. And if getting over this type of hurdle, this mental hurdle, is something that you want to do, understand that you can do that. It's very simple to do that, right? I really hope y'all enjoyed this episode of the Handle That Podcast. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at the Handle That Podcast. I also have my main Instagram, which is at Abdul Aesthetics. That's ABDUL_AESTHETICS. Make sure to subscribe to the Handle That Podcast YouTube channel, so you can, if you don't, want to listen and you would rather watch, you can subscribe to the channel and watch the videos as well as listen to the podcast and all of these things. And I want you all to understand, if you're going through something, you're not alone. Be great, and stay tuned rather, for the next episode. Everybody be great, and don't forget, handle that.